When words fall short, when hope feels thin, listen close, let music begin.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amazing Women Speakers. And today we have an amazing woman speaker. Her name is Nakita Pope, leading beyond job description. Hi, Nakita.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. So tell us what you speak on.
Yes, so I speak on leading beyond the job description. It's basically about creative leadership and how you can lead not only in creative environments creatively, but how do you take whatever environment you're in and bring forth those things that allow you to be a creative leader, and do the things that are just a little bit beyond what's expected of you, but in a way that's creative and that's going to have high impact.
You know, I love what you just said because I remember being at a birthday party, a children's birthday party that was completely chaotic. And this woman who happens to be a leader in leadership positions, she said, okay, because she knew the mom couldn't handle it. And she just said, okay, kids.
Yeah.
So it's not just in the workplace, it's everywhere.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so what got you interested in doing this? Tell us your background.
Well, I started as a graphic designer. So I've been in marketing and advertising for 25 years. I've been a designer, a marketing manager, creative director. I'm also a professor. So I teach this stuff and I try to infuse as much about leadership and sort of the what they call the soft skills of being a professional creative into my classes as possible. Because to me, they're not so soft. Like sometimes those are the things that make the difference between you being very successful in what it is that you do versus being just okay at what you do.
So have you found in your career that there are some people that are just natural leaders?
Absolutely.
Okay, tell
Absolutely.
us about that. Tell us about that.
Well, you and I were talking a little bit before, and you say your daughter used to be a babysitter. So I was a nanny in grad school as well.
Okay.
And so my philosophy is that people are pretty much who they're going to be by the time they're like 6 years old. Like, of course, there's experiences that get added to that and education that gets added to that. But at their core personalities, you can see it so early. So I truly believe that there are people who are just naturally gifted at being leaders. But I think that there's other people who are not necessarily, and sometimes they get a little discouraged because they think that because it's not natural for them that they are not suited to be in leadership. And so that's the other reason why, talking about being a creative leader is important because it allows you to embrace the idea that you can be a leader in your way and you don't have to lead the way that everybody else does.
So tell us three examples of what you would say makes a great leader.
Ooh, one is to listen. I think
Listen.
sometimes, especially when you have people who are new to leadership or they're in a new leadership role, they want to make an impact almost immediately. They start changing everything and doing, new initiatives and all that stuff. And that's great. But often what gets lost in the sauce is that if you haven't listened, if you haven't really immersed yourself into whatever environment you're in, you don't actually know what's working and what's not working. So sometimes changing things off the cuff doesn't actually do well because
Right.
you're changing some of the things that already work. So
Okay.
being able to listen, not only listen to, your immediate team, but listen to everybody that is in your sphere, and people that are impacted by the trickle down of the decisions that you make, listening to them as well. So I think that's number one. Number two is being willing to be open and not necessarily be rigid in the way that you lead. Not everyone responds to the same type of motivation. They're not inspired by the same things. They may not do well, in certain projects and things like that. And I think being able to be open to be flexible in that way is really important. And if I had to choose a last one, I would say remember that your team that they are humans, and that they're
Oh,
not just
yeah.
people that do a job or a task, but they are whole humans. They have a whole life outside of work, and sometimes being able to tap into that a little bit, and not necessarily overstepping any boundaries, but, get to know the people that are on your team, get to know what inspires them, what lights them up, what the things are that they do when they're not there, and that, balances out their lives. That stuff is important.
It really is. So listen, flexibility, and understanding
Yes.
is what I hear. And
Mhm.
it does mean a lot when somebody just acknowledges that you did something good.
Yeah,
You,
absolutely. And acknowledges that you're a person and not just somebody who produces. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I think I've seen lots of leaders go wrong when they're so focused on what needs to be done
Hmm.
that they don't, take their head out of the sand a little bit and look around and say,
Oh,
okay, but my team is miserable.
yeah,
And, I want them to produce, but I want them to produce in a way that's fulfilling for them too. And not just, that they're just going to crank through it and be miserable.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I love what you're doing. Have you written a book? Are you writing a book?
Not yet, but that is the plan.
It sounds like you should write one. A nice,
Yeah.
simple, you've got great ideas. And
Thank you.
I'd love to see your presentation. I
Mhm.
bet you that you have changed lives. Do you have an example of somebody that came up to you after a speech or something that you remember?
Yeah. So, as a professor, like, it's so um inspiring for me to get that feedback. And sometimes you don't always immediately, sometimes you get it later. But even just in a talk like this particular topic about creative leadership, I did a master class with professionals before I decided to develop it into a talk. So some of my feedback comes from that. One of the most powerful ones for me, because I had people at different levels. I had people
Sure.
that were aspiring to move into leadership. I had people that were already in leadership. And so for one of my attendees for the master class, she was a junior. So she was kind of just getting, her feet wet into the being a creative professional. And her feedback from the class, was really great for me because it landed directly in the space that I wanted to have impact. So for her, it was, I feel so much more confident now, even thinking about being in leadership. Like I've always aspired to, but I never even said it out loud to anyone because I was unsure about, whether I could actually do it or whether I was suited for it. And, I've watched the people around me who do it well and the people who don't do it well. And I just didn't know where I stood there. So being able to hear from you, also reinforced for me that I don't have to do it the way that other people do it, that I can bring myself into
Oh, I
leadership.
love
And that
that.
gives me so much more confidence to even try to tackle it when the time comes.
Oh, I love that. I think people are afraid to be themselves.
Yes,
You, you,
absolutely.
judgment is huge. Judgment
Absolutely.
is huge.
It,
I do a retreat with a friend every year. And the first retreat, I know God gave it to me. What came flying out of my mouth? You know those things that come flying out of your mouth that you
yep.
didn't think of?
And you're like, where did that come from?
Yeah, exactly.
But also, that was great.
Yeah, exactly. This came out of me. Just there's no judgment. We have one rule at this retreat: no judgment. It was all women.
Yeah.
If you want to show up in your curlers, no makeup. If you drop the F-bomb, we aren't
Yep.
going to judge you. We're
Yep.
not going to judge you.
Safe
This is
space.
yeah, this is a safe space for you to be who you are. I love this. I love what you're doing. Tell me a song that fires you up because this is what I'm all about is music. So tell me a song.
Mm. Jill Scott Golden is one of
Okay.
my favorites. It's such it's the title tells it all.
The
It's such a
Golden.
warm and fuzzy kind of thing. It's about living your life like it's golden. And it always just reminds me to be grateful and gets me excited.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, you have a website?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
You can check me out at brandingchicks.com.
Oh, that's right. I saw that. I
Yeah.
love that. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, and we'll see you out there on stages everywhere.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.